Welcome to Horrorscape. My name's Luke. I'm joined by Ricky. Thank you all for listening.
Yes, thank you all. We'll be discussing 1998 slasher Urban Legend today. If you have not seen this movie, this is a slasher set on the campus of a private university where a series of murders take place that seem to model popular urban legends. So, Luke, what's your first take on the movie?
It's definitely one of the better Scream clones. Let's see. Scream, Urban Legend, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'd say that one's probably the weaker of them. This one's actually pretty fun and has fun with the topic. Or I don't know. Like Scream was more like
More self-aware.
More self-aware.
Right.
Urban Legend is also self-aware, but it's self-aware about urban legends instead of horror movies.
Yeah.
But
I think that's something we'll disagree on because I think I like I Know What You Did Last Summer a little better, maybe.
Oh.
Yeah. I think I tend to lean towards that one as being the better spinoff of the Scream craze. Yeah, the Scream clones. But not saying I do like the movie. I thought it was fun, but I'm just not sure if I do like it better than the other knockoffs that spawned after Scream.
But you don't get Jared Leto in those other movies. You don't get.
Well, that's okay. I mean,
I don't know. This movie is also just chock full of like really good like horror movie Easter eggs and references and stuff.
Yeah. So the plot again is basically just so you have a killer running around on a campus here who's recreating murders based off of the popular urban legends of the day, like the two people at the Lover's Lane, and the guy gets out to go pee, and his feet, she hears the scratching on top of the car, and unbeknownst to her, it's his feet because he's hanging from a tree and scratching the top of the car. She drives off, pulls back, and then eventually, he falls on the car. But I think the big one that people most recognize, or at least think about, is the opening scene with the guy being in the back seat.
Oh yeah, that's definitely one that has probably haunted a lot of people throughout. For instance, I still check my back seat, and I saw that movie when I was like 8, and it's just left that impression. Even before I could drive, I was always checking the back seat.
Yeah, that seems to be the thing that people remember probably most from this movie. Although the idea of the scene itself, where the girl Michelle is her name, she gets her head chopped off by an axe in the backseat. I'm not quite sure how someone could swing a full-fledged axe from the backseat to the front seat.
They actually, I was reading that they had to switch cars. I think they switched maybe years of Land Rover because they discovered you just couldn't at all swing an axe in the car. Mm-hmm. So supposedly they did get a car that was big enough to swing an axe in, but they didn't really display them. That's a really quick cut, and yeah, you just kind of see an axe swinging through a window. And you're like, oh, she got her head cut off.
And also in that scene is the gas station attendant, played by Brad Dourif. Yeah, who tries to warn her that there's somebody in the back seat. I think that scene is kind of funny because they don't really. It almost seems so easy for this person to actually tell her what's going on, but they make it so hard. Like, drags her into the place, like locks the door. Why? I'm not sure why all that would have been necessary without kind of whispering on the way, like, "Hey, this is not. There's no credit card company on the phone, but somebody's in your back seat. We're going to go in there and call the police." But
or you could have written it on a note or some like a dry board, because he's clearly got a real big problem expressing himself, and in that moment he needs to express himself very quickly to diffuse the situation, and this woman is already creeped out by you.
Right, yeah.
Finesse is needed.
So as the story unfolds, we find out that they think you find out pretty early on what the motive of the killer actually is. The main heroine of the movie with Natalie, she will.
Yeah, Natalie.
She'll confess the story about her and her friend driving down the road, and
her friend in this scenario being the one that's killed in the very first scene.
Right, yeah, Michelle. But
there's also, side note, that actress who plays Michelle is the daughter of Natalie Wood of West Side Story fame.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I had no idea. But yeah, it seems that the motive is pretty clear, at least after the confession, that when she confesses to Brenda, which is Rebecca Gayhart's character, tells her pretty much straight up that story. So you do understand from the beginning what the motive is. I'm not sure that the movie gives away too many clues about who the killer
is behind it, but almost I Know What You Did Last Summer thing, where it's like, we killed some guy and now somebody's trying to kill me. I wonder if it's connected.
Right, yeah. The only big clue, which you wouldn't know, I guess, if you didn't understand or read Latin, but the motto of the university that's on the emblem, when translated from Latin to English, it actually translates to the best friend did it.
We have now gone into spoiler territory, but you have to know who Natalie's best friend is.
Yeah, but that's pretty much given right.
She's got a lot of friends. I mean, she's got a few friends.
Yeah, but that's the one thing that's given to you right up at the beginning. And one thing that I found pretty comical about the entire plot, and it's something I didn't realize happened in a lot of movies, but typically in a horror movie, something bad will happen and another character will go to either the main character, whatever person this happened to, and say, "Are you okay?"
And, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. They'll say, "Are you okay?" And they're like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I almost died, but I'm fine." Natalie in this movie, every time she is asked, says no, like flat out, "No, I'm not okay." And
I appreciate that too.
yeah, that's something that's kind of unique that I picked up on when I was viewing it. I was like, well,
yeah, other heroines are like afraid that everyone's gonna think they're crazy. Natalie's like, "You're all crazy. Why aren't you listening to me?" I mean, she has some really, I don't know. I liked her character honestly as a heroine because she's like not an idiot. There's that part where she's in the car with Damon and he's like telling her this fake story, and like as soon as he says like one thing, and if you're listening to it, you're like, no, he's making this up. But right then, she also cues in on it. It's like, this guy's full of complete shit.
No, you definitely see that he's kind of like a scummy character right at the beginning, because he knows that something bad is happening and he's trying to take advantage of that situation.
Yeah, that joke he tells is just like completely messed up.
Yeah, and which makes his death kind of rewarding to a degree when it happens.
Yes, like we didn't really like him.
Yeah, it's like they kind of built him up, and in slasher movies, the idea kind of is to almost root for the killer to some degree. So when you think back to like Friday the 13th, and you have all these crazy kids running around doing things, you almost kind of root for Jason for those kids to get their comeuppance or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of them you don't have too much sympathy for, except for like the heroine. And same in this one. I mean, I can't say like they're all terrible people, but a lot of them are. Mm-hmm. I'd say maybe, well, Tara Reid's character's kind of, I don't know. I'm trying to, okay, maybe Natalie. Even Paul's kind of like a scumbag too.
Yeah, because he's basically character. Yeah, because he's trying to exploit the tragedies for his career to get the story. I mean, that's kind of like the trope of what a reporter is anyway, is trying to exploit
April
what they can for news. But yeah, you brought up Tara Reid's character, Sasha, who's the radio host.
I mean, she's not a completely terrible person. She actually does kind of seem like she has a bit of a conscience outside of the radio stuff, because she's kind of brutal to people on her talk show, but she's like being a friend to somebody. But I have to mention how much I enjoy Michael Rosenbaum's performance as Parker. I don't know. I always like him and stuff I see. He was famously Lex Luthor on Smallville. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's just like such a total asshole, but like really funny too, though. I don't know. There's something about like people that are good at playing assholes. Also, side note, the guy who plays Damon, Joshua Jackson, was like the main kid on the Mighty Ducks movies.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and they make a little nod to him being on Dawson's Creek too when he starts his car and the
music plays. Yeah, the music plays. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think he was on it at that moment too.
Mm-hmm.
Also, any Terry Gilliam fans may recognize Dean Adams, John Neville, as he was Baron Munchausen in The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. It was kind of sad to watch him die in the way he did in that movie.
Yeah.
He did have, I think, the coolest death, though. Run over by his own car.
Yeah, the dean of the school. Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets
impaled
on the spikes.
Yeah. Early Achilles tendon cutting, too.
Oh, yeah.
I hadn't seen one of those before that movie.
Right, yeah, that's... I think most notably people think of that when they think of Hostel. But
yeah. Or House of Wax. There's a pretty good one in that one.
Mm-hmm. The movie also tends to give some nods to some horror movie staples. I mean, just some of the cast. Like we mentioned Brad Dourif earlier. He plays the voice of Chucky in most of the Chucky movies. We also have Robert Englund, who plays the professor in this movie.
Professor Freddy Krueger. And in the scene where they Natalie and Paul are going back to kind of snoop through his office, when they go through what is like the secret door or whatever, you can actually see there's a Freddy Krueger doll sitting on the desk. Oh, wow. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's only there for a minute, but you can see it there.
Also, I have to point out, speaking of killer costumes, when they go in there, they see the killer jackets, whatever the proper name is for that kind of jacket. It's
like just a parka?
Yeah, parka.
Yeah.
So apparently, originally, this movie was supposed to take place during winter time.
Yeah.
It obviously isn't. Maybe fall. But they didn't want to waste the money on like fake snow and all that stuff because they didn't really have way to do that.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge budget film.
Yeah.
I think it was more of like a cash grab on the Scream craze, but
but like they still have the winter jacket and it's supposed to be inconspicuous. But like, okay, there's the scene where Natalie goes to see Brenda at the pool. And then that person walks in wearing the parka, face covered.
Yeah.
Comes up right to where Brenda's getting out of the water. Natalie breaks the window, and then they both look up, and the girl's just a guy. It's just a girl in a bikini wearing this full winter outfit.
Full winter parka. Yeah. and I kind of thought too, like you had Brenda in the swimming pool, and we know that Brenda is eventually named
as the killer.
As the killer. Like, is she kind of like swimming along there and sees this girl walking up, like, what the fuck is she? Does everybody have and you see this jacket several times. Like, not only does
time for my plan, everybody's wearing the same jacket.
Because not only does obviously Brenda has that jacket because she's the killer, but the girl walking in the swimming pool has the jacket. The professor, Robert Englund, also has these exact same jacket, and the crazy janitor. Yeah.
He's like,
in the truck also has this jacket. And it's clearly like a female's jacket with the, like fur going around. Like,
yeah. That was the year of that jacket, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe it was on sale somewhere or something, but.
Because it clearly wasn't winter, and you're going to have a sale on that when it's not winter. I don't know. There's even like little lines here and there to imply that it's cold, but it's clearly not. Like going back again to like Natalie and Damon getting in the car and when leading up to his death, she like gets in the car and he's like, "Want something to warm you up?" And he like throws her a cold beer. It's like, it's not cold. Stop it.
I think it is those little things, like I mentioned earlier, maybe why I would put I Know What You Did Last Summer over some of the
little things like that.
Little things that clearly were not thought about for the movie as far as the plot goes, which, I mean, let's be honest, nobody's really expecting great things from a slasher as far as the plot goes. I mean, 'cause you're tuning in to see the kids try to find out who's killing them. And I've been trying to think of anything as far as Brenda's character that may give her away.
Well, you made me think of something earlier. I mean, watching it over again and then like knowing that she is who she is. Oh God. Okay, so as soon as Natalie finds out that Michelle Mancini has been killed, and she doesn't tell anybody initially that she knew her. As soon as she gets home and checks her answer machine, Brenda has left a message. It's like, "Hey, are you all right? You were acting really weird," and all this stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, get her to confess or something.
Trying to get her to confess or something, or even bring it up. Yeah, that may be a little clue to who may be.
And she's like, I knew, or because clearly obviously she knew because she killed Michelle and she knows all of that stuff. Was probably paying quite a lot of attention to her as she was given that news. And then later when she confesses, she says something. I wish I'd written it down, but it was like oddly cryptic after she tells Brenda this whole story. It's like, maybe there's a chance for you to make up for it yet, or something like that. And watching that's pretty cryptic.
Yeah, when Natalie's confessing to her about what's going on, and she's like, you may have a chance to make up for it. And yeah, I didn't think about that too much.
Also, when she goes full crazy, I have to note how throughout the movie her hair is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And at the end, it's just full blown. She looks like the maid from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
yeah. Her hair just gets huge,
explodes
as it goes along.
She takes 2 bullets, falls out of a really high window. She also gets thrown off of a car, and like she must have done some like training before this.
Yeah, because she does take quite a few hits and bumps and bruises that you don't see. That's not given away at all. And a couple characters we haven't really brought up yet was the character of Reese Wilson, which is
Reese. The one security guard.
The one security guard on the entire.
That's definitely very Halloween H2O of them, where it's this super private university, and there's one security guard.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Pre-9/11 was nuts.
Yeah. Well, and they kind of, at the beginning, try to portray her character as, like, somewhat in cahoots with the dean, who is trying to cover up the entire... I guess the massacre that occurred on campus years prior.
Yeah, when Robert Englund was a young lad.
Yeah, and he was the only survivor of that, which is strange because I kind of wish they would have told more about what actually happened.
Yeah.
I think that would add a little story to the plot. Possibly.
Yeah, it kind of turned out that Robert Englund had absolutely nothing to do with anything besides he survived a massacre.
Yeah.
And the main plot had nothing to do with that. And he still got iced.
Yeah,
like,
and it
survived a massacre, and he didn't make it through this one.
And it almost seems like, well, I guess it would kind of make sense, but it almost seems that they're struggling really hard to find out if this campus massacre did happen years ago. And when they do find out, there's like, oh, it happened? Okay.
Cool.
Cool. Okay, we thought it might have happened. So there's no depth to that part of the story whatsoever. But I guess, again, thinking, if your friends are getting killed, you're probably not caring too much about a urban legend that happened on campus, even if you did find out it was true.
Yeah.
Although they did kind of suspect that it was linked to what was happening, but they didn't really.
And that Robert Englund was the killer, and then he gets killed off screen.
He does get killed off screen.
And then Reese takes a little slide in his blood. Hey, I guess Brad Dourif survived. Good for him.
Yeah,
Probably
he survived.
Sasha, she put up a pretty good fight for a little while.
Yeah, she had a chase scene where she was chased around the studio and then cut several times and then eventually hacked up. Which when I was watching, I was thinking, I was like, well, trying to think of the timeline of Tara Reid, if this was like the beginning of the wrong path that she had obviously taken in life.
I think this was post Big Lebowski, that maybe. Oh no, actually, I think this is pre Big Lebowski. I think it was about '98 that both of those came out. So this might have been her year. I don't know, but she's come back in the Sharknado movies.
Well, I mean, and yeah, the Big Lebowski did come out in '98. But I mean, yeah, when you look at Tara Reid now in like the Sharknado movies and some of the other stuff, I mean, you can tell she's went the way of other actresses like Lindsay Lohan, where they're kind of you can tell they live the party life a little too much. And it kind of caught up with them. Yeah.
Oh, another notable horror persona is Danielle Harris, who's in this as Natalie's roommate Tosh, the angry, cigarette-smoking, internet-trolling goth.
Yeah. Which, the scene where we're first introduced to her character, it kind of shows this is the part that makes the movie a little dated. Anytime any movie shows technology, it automatically adds a level of datedness. I know that's probably not a word, but to the movie, it's just like cell phones in movies. You know, anytime you see a cell phone, you automatically think of how dated the movie could be based on the type of cell phone. But yeah, when she's using the laptop there that's like 1.5 inches thick, and then has to unplug the internet line so someone could use the phone.
Oh God. Yeah. Those were not the days.
Yeah. So those are the kind of things that doesn't really hold up over time. And speaking of her death, it was such a short span in the movie where her character was even there.
I don't think she even left that room the entire movie.
No. She had, 2 scenes, basically?
Yeah.
Where...
Just yelling at Alicia Witt.
Yeah, yelling at Natalie and telling her, not to come in the room. And then the next scene is her trying to hook up with some guy over drugs, trying to hang out.
But they had to be goth, too.
Yeah.
Any cute goth guys out there like to party.
Yeah.
They're looking to hook up.
Which brings me to another kind of question about the plot of the movie. So Natalie walks in to her dorm for the second time after being yelled at for entering the first time and turning the lights on and disturbing Tasha's
sexy time.
And so she walks in the second time, and obviously the killer is strangling her, so she thinks that she's just having another rumpus that night. So she decides to not turn the light on, lay down, go to bed.
Headphones turned the other way.
Put headphones on, turn the other way, and then wakes up, to the message on the dorm room wall. And
aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light?
Yeah. But my question is, okay, so looking back, who the killer is, basically the motive of the killer. In all likelihood, the plot would have ended there. The killer was in there. She had already killed Michelle, which was Natalie's friend, who was in the car, and then now she's alone in the room with Natalie and has every opportunity to kill her, but decides not to.
She wanted to mentally torture her just a smidge more. But but also she didn't know that, or maybe she did. I don't know. Maybe she mentioned it to her because they were best friends. That she's like, so Tosh yelled at me the other night because I turned the light on. So never doing that again. Next
Yeah,
time I walk in, I'm just gonna. But what a good roommate, though. She had to get. It was mentioned once, and she's like, "Okay, I'm trained now. I'm not gonna do that. Make our living situation as peaceful as possible."
Yeah, and she just walks right in, doesn't turn the light on, just kind of looks the other way. They try and mention that Tasha's suicide, that her death was a suicide.
Yeah,
which doesn't get much play. They just kind of just
yeah, I'm
throw that out
pretty
there.
sure. Yeah, but one thing that kind of bothered me too is Reese is the one that said that, and there's no investigation into anything else.
Yeah, they don't even look into it.
Police would get involved, especially just one person, her roommate, saying there was definitely someone else in the room with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would think that they would.
She would have passed out before she was able to write that entire note in her own blood.
Yeah, because I know that the killer slit Tasha's wrist in the movie, and I guess it's
strangling her.
Also,
morticians exist. They can see. Oh, it looks like she was choked to death. That's not a suicide.
Yeah, it's just like they just kind of completely write it off, and there's nothing ever looked into it. They just assume it's just the crazy goth girl that never leaves her room, and
people still get that ignored. I don't think. I mean, this was before everyone was watching lots of CSI, I guess, and they'd be like, bullshit.
Yeah,
bullshit.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of red herrings throughout this movie, suspecting, maybe this person's the killer, that person, so on and so forth.
Yeah, because Paul is played out to be.
Yeah, Paul's a red herring too. She's
to
like,
be the killer.
Paul, why weren't you wherever? And it's like, I was been running around campus trying to find somebody.
Yeah,
that is believable because you have one security guard.
Yeah,
and the dean, who's a complete asshole, called the police and said, "Hey, expect there to be some prank calls tonight. Ignore everything."
Yeah.
Why would the police listen to that?
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out when Brenda would have had time to put the professor.
Wexler.
Wexler in the back of Paul's car. Without being noticed, or at least covered in blood or something like that.
I got to give her credit. She worked very hard for her vengeance, hauling all those bodies around. Even scenes of her taking down a fully grown man.
Yeah, carrying,
hauling him over, putting a noose around this kid, throwing that around the tree, hauling him up, tying it to the car.
Yeah,
but having him just perfectly dangling on top of the car so he's not dead. He's getting a little bit of his weight off of him, but just enough for her not to actually hear him talking and saying "Don't start the car."
Yeah.
She. I'm surprised she wasn't panting every time she's "Hey Natalie, what's happening?"
Yeah, you would think that she would be a very tired individual trying to keep up with this in school and keep appearances. And all this running around that she's having to do for her vengeance.
In that final night, or when she catches Paul and Natalie kissing, and she's drinking and stuff.
Yeah.
She's still got more murdering to do that night, but she's got to keep her nightlife going too, I guess.
And how conflicted must she be that she's at the same time has this kind of infatuation with Paul, but trying to pin him as the killer at the same time, almost the same night. I'm not sure where she's going.
Also at the same, she's infatuated with Paul, and she's like, "I'm in love with this guy, and I want to torture this girl." Oh no, they're getting close. I have at the end. I love at the end when he walks in and he's tries to trick her. He's like, "Yeah, you and me, we're gonna sort this out." And she's like, "You're really cute, but not that fucking cute."
Yeah. One thing I found pretty funny too was at the very end of the movie, where it spans I guess a few years later, you have another set of college students sitting around
who look 40.
Who definitely seem like they're not college students.
Yeah, the original people in the movie, they actually do seem like college students. I'll give them that. But yeah, these guys are. One guy's like balding already, and
Yeah.
you're freshman in college.
Yeah, but they're talking about kind of rehashing the story of what happened pretty badly, you know, going through the thing of they're making mistakes, all this kind of stuff, just kind of talking about it. And one of the guys says, yeah, and I thought the killer, she I think she was a girl in like a Noxzema commercial or something like that. And then turns out that Brenda, the actress,
Rebecca Gayheart,
she at the time was in Noxzema commercials.
Not too far off.
Yeah, definitely not too far off. So maybe to wrap up a little bit, what is your overall take? What do you think?
I think definitely a movie I have not thought about it in quite a lot of years, but every dark night when I'm going to my car after work, I then passively think of it by just taking a quick glance in my back seat. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely worth a watch, especially if you like 90s slasher movies. It's definitely up there. Scream's definitely going to always be the heavyweight champion. But
yeah.
Oh, P.S. I forgot to mention earlier. I brought up Danielle Harris. She was famously Jamie Lloyd in Halloween 4 and 5, and she was in the Rob Zombie remakes as Annie.
Yes,
but But I'd definitely say it's worth a watch if you like that kind of stuff. It's mindless fun. You get to see, I don't know, Jared Leto's a really good actor now, and it's definitely a cool seeing him in like a really early stage in his career. And Alicia Witt of Twin Peaks fame, if you watch the new season of Twin Peaks, she's in that. But hadn't seen her in much since Urban Legend, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, especially if you even just like horror movies, you'll see some like nods and winks and to other franchises that aren't even like laid on that thick, I don't think. But
no, I don't think so.
Urban Legends are just creepy in general, so I don't know. I'd say check it out if you haven't. What about you, Ricky?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. Like I mentioned earlier, it's probably, I don't want to say like bottom of the barrel for 90s horror slasher genre. But it is fun if you're just in the mood. Sometimes you just want something that's not heavily plot driven, but still has kind of a mystery to it to see if you want to try and figure out who the killer would be.
Who done it?
Like, yeah, kind of your typical who done it, or if you're just in the mood for like a teen slasher.
You've already watched all the Friday the 13th.
Yeah. If you just need something different than what maybe would be your go-tos for that genre, then yeah, it's something that probably a lot of people I think don't remember or think of. And I've heard a little bit of buzz about it because it just got put on Netflix again, so you can watch it there. I think it is good. It's a good watch.
It's got a girl. It's got a female killer too.
Yeah, it's something I probably wouldn't watch, that many times or something. Maybe not go back to it as much as some of the others, but especially not as much as something like Scream. If it's just different enough that if you're kind of craving that flavor of movie, it would suffice.
Feed the hunger for 90s slasher stuff. Also, they off-camera pierce a dog's nose, and then the dog gets microwaved later.
Yeah, we didn't bring up the microwaving of the dog.
Yeah,
that's a pretty gruesome scene.
That always stuck with me. I mean, just the idea of like, I don't know, animal cruelty has never been something taken lightly for me, so it was definitely shocking.
Yeah, and we didn't bring up Parker's death either.
Oh yeah, because that leads to his death because he gets sick.
He gets sick because he sees the dog. He finds the dog in the microwave, and then attacked in the bathroom, and cleaning products is
Pop rocks and then cleaning products.
Pop rocks and then cleaning products is poured down, which probably may have been a clue as to maybe who the killer would be, because it would have to kind of giving a nod to somebody in that room during the
who saw the pop rock experiment.
Saw the pop rocks, yeah. But no, if anybody out there hasn't seen it, unfortunately, you pretty much know everything that happens. But it is worth a watch. Like I said, it's something I'm not going to watch yearly, annually, anything like that. But
plus, I watched it 3 times this week, so I'm good for now.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where maybe I would see it in passing and be like, oh, I haven't thought about that movie in a while. I might watch it, maybe 3 or 4 years down the road when I forget about it again. But
yeah, there'll be about 10 more years. I'll definitely watch it again. Maybe 5. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe 5. But so yeah, I guess this will conclude our pilot episode here.
Yeah, and we'll definitely come back. We haven't figured out what we're doing quite next, but
yeah, we'll get together.
We'll let you know.
Yeah, we did start the Facebook page.
Oh yeah, if you would like to make some suggestions.
Yeah, definitely some suggestions.
We can't promise we'll do all of them, but we'll.
And also, I want to start putting up the movies that we're going to be talking about, maybe like a week before we publish them. And have people, on the Facebook page, if they feel so inclined, could kind of banter a little bit about the movie too before the episode gets released.
Somebody might tell us something that we have no idea about.
Yeah, something we have no idea about, and just maybe for people to see it and kind of remember and give them time to watch the movie as well before before we start talking about it and spoil things if you haven't seen the movie.
Yeah.
All right, I think this will do it for today. Again, if you made it this far, tuned in, thanks. We definitely appreciate it, and hope you'll come back and see us.